I was walking home alone, late one night, the cold air seeping through my thin jacket, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. If I didn't find a job by the end of the week, I was going to be homeless. That thought alone was terrifying, but it wasn't even the worst part. My aunt, the only family I had, was lying in a hospital bed, and I had no idea how I was going to pay for her medical treatments. Each step I took felt heavier than the last, my mind a whirlwind of panic and despair. I was so lost in my thoughts that I didn't notice the black van until it screeched to a halt right beside me. Before I could even scream, two figures grabbed me, dragging me inside. The doors slammed shut, the lock clicked, and the van sped off. My heart dropped. My heart hammered against my ribs as we drove for what felt like hours.
Where are you taking me? Because if this is a ransom thing, I should warn you, I'm about one bad week away from being homeless. Seriously, you picked the wrong girl. Okay, fine. I have $70 in my savings. You can take it. All of it.
When the van finally stopped, I was pulled out and found myself standing in front of a huge, eerie mansion that looked like it was ripped from a horror movie. It was perched on a hill, surrounded by gnarled trees, and seemed to swallow the moonlight. I was roughly led inside, through winding corridors and up a grand staircase, until we reached a pair of massive wooden doors. They pushed me into a luxurious office, the kind you only see in movies, and forced me into a plush leather chair. Across a vast mahogany desk sat a rich older man with cold, calculating eyes. He had an unnerving smile on his face as he looked me over.
Hello, Julie.
Who are you? And how do you know my name?
Don't look so frightened. I'm not going to hurt you. In fact, I'm here to offer you a deal.
Chris, I have a job for you. If you complete it, your aunt's medical treatment will be fully paid for.
And you'll receive $50,000. You don't need to know why, only what you must do.
My head was spinning. How did he know about my aunt? About my life? I stayed silent. I stared at him, bewildered and scared. What kind of job was this? It sounded too good to be true. Was he a gangster? Was this even real? He must have seen the confusion on my face because he continued, his tone patient yet firm.
The job is simple, really. I will enroll you in an elite private school, Northwood Preparatory Academy. All expenses paid, of course.
He paused, letting his words sink in.
Once he trusts you enough to invite you to his family's home, you will find and retrieve a specific item for me.
A small, ornate music box. It's hidden somewhere in the house. Bring it to me, and our deal is complete.
After he finished explaining, his men escorted me back to the van and dropped me off on the exact same street corner where they had picked me up, as if nothing had ever happened. Standing there under the streetlight, with the memory of the cold leather chair and the man's piercing gaze still fresh in my mind, I realized my life had just been turned completely upside down. Hi, I'm Julie, and this was how my life imploded and was rebuilt in a single night. Before that, please like and subscribe to this channel. I grew up in an orphanage, a gray, colorless place where you learned not to want for too much. For 9 years, my world was a series of shared rooms and hand-me-down clothes. Then, one day, a woman with the kindest eyes I'd ever seen came to visit. She was my aunt, Carol, my mother's sister, and she took me in. For the first time, I had a home. I had a family. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and that was everything. Our simple, happy life was shattered a few years later when Aunt Carol collapsed. A sudden, severe illness left her in a coma, her body in a hospital bed, while her spirit seemed to drift somewhere I couldn't reach. I was 16, suddenly alone again, but this time with a purpose. I dropped out of school and got a job as a waitress, working double shifts, pouring every penny I earned into keeping a roof over our heads and paying for her care. But my meager tips were no match for the endless stream of medical bills. My savings dwindled to nothing, and then, the final blow, the diner closed down. I lost my job, and with it, my last shred of hope. That's when the man in the black van found me. I felt like I had no other choice but to take the deal. The very next day, a package arrived with a Northwood Academy uniform and a student ID. Walking onto that campus felt like stepping into another universe. Polished marble floors, perfectly manicured lawns, and students dressed in designer clothes, driving cars that cost more than my aunt's apartment. I felt completely out of place. I quickly located my target, Brad. He was exactly as the man had described him, handsome, popular, and surrounded by a crowd of adoring friends. He was the school's heartthrob, the king of the castle, I expected it to be hard to get his attention, but to my surprise, Brad approached me first. I was sitting alone in the library, trying to blend in, when he sat down across from me. He said he hadn't seen me around before and was curious. He had a charming smile and kind eyes that didn't match the arrogant persona I was expecting. I remembered my mission and put on my best act, pretending to be intrigued by him. I laughed at his jokes, asked him about his life, and acted like I was completely smitten. It was all a performance, a means to an end, or so I told myself. As the weeks went by, we spent more and more time together. I kept up my facade, but something unexpected started to happen. I discovered a different side of Brad, one he kept hidden from his popular friends. He was thoughtful, funny, and genuinely kind. He volunteered at an animal shelter, loved old black and white movies, and listened with sincere interest when I talked about my own life, even the heavily edited version I gave him. The lines between my act and my real feelings started to blur. Before I knew it, I wasn't pretending anymore. I had genuinely fallen in love with him, and he had fallen for me. One rainy Friday afternoon, Brad asked me the question I had been waiting for.
My parents are having a small dinner party tonight. I'd love for you to come and meet them.
That's so wonderful.
My heart leaped into my throat. This was it. The moment my mission hinged on. The dinner at his family's mansion was as grand as I had imagined. His parents were warm and welcoming, and for a few hours I allowed myself to forget the real reason I was there. As the night wore on, the rain turned into a torrential downpour, making the roads impassable. Brad's parents insisted I stay the night. It was the perfect opportunity. Once everyone was asleep, I slipped out of the guest room. The house was silent except for the ticking of a grandfather clock and the drumming of the rain against the windows. My heart pounded as I searched for the music box. The man had given me a clue. It led me to the library. I ran my fingers along the spines of the books until one bookshelf creaked and swung inward, revealing a hidden room. My breath caught. There, on a pedestal under a glass cover, was the music box. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined, intricately carved from dark wood and inlaid with mother of pearl. My hands trembled as I lifted the glass and carefully tucked the box into my bag. As I was quietly closing the secret panel, I heard a floorboard creak behind me. I spun around, my heart stopping. I stammered, my mind racing to come up with a believable lie. He looked at me, a flicker of confusion in his eyes, but he seemed to accept my excuse, and we walked back to our rooms together. I barely slept that night, the weight of the music box in my bag feeling like a ton of bricks. The next morning, the rain had stopped. I was getting ready to leave when Brad knocked on my door. He walked in, his expression unreadable, and in his hands he held the music box. My blood ran cold.
I found this in your bag, and I think you have some explaining to do.
The guilt was overwhelming. I couldn't lie to him anymore. Tears streamed down my face as I broke down and told him everything. The man, the deal, my aunt, the kidnapping, the whole sordid story. I expected him to be furious, to hate me. But he just listened, his expression shifting from shock to concern. When I finished, he took a deep breath. Brad immediately hired a private investigator, and the truth that came to light was more shocking than I could have ever imagined. The music box didn't just play a pretty tune. It contained a hidden compartment with microfilm blueprints for a revolutionary new technology his father's company had developed. The man who had hired me wanted to steal them, and the most horrifying revelation of all, that man, the cold-hearted man from the mansion, was my biological father. He had been a monster who abused my mother and ran a network of illegal businesses. He had abandoned me as a baby and was now trying to use me to ruin the lives of another family. Armed with this information, Brad and I went straight to the police. They launched a full-scale investigation, and my father was arrested. His web of deceit and crime came crashing down, and his entire company was shut down. True to his kind heart, Brad paid for all of my aunt's medical treatments out of his own pocket. And then, a miracle happened. A few weeks later, my aunt woke up from her coma. Seeing her open her eyes was the happiest moment of my life. Brad's family, grateful for what I had done, offered me a job at their company. And Brad and I, we stayed together, our love stronger than ever, forged in the fires of a terrible secret. Looking back, it's crazy to think how one deal, one single choice made out of desperation, completely changed the course of my life in just 24 hours.